Welcome back inside the lab, everybody. That is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you for joining us for the Monday edition. We're breaking everything down from the past weekend in fantasy hockey news, and it's a jam-packed episode that you want to be tapped right into. So let's get right to it. Thank you for joining us.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey and degenerate gambling breakdown news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. This is a really exciting time in the NHL. And for fantasy hockey GMs, if you still are in the mix now, it's make or break. So thank you for tuning in. We hope we can continue to feed you with what you need to know to make that money. That includes big-time bets. We're getting there at the end of the episode today, of course. Mini 3-game Monday board. But Steele, my goodness, on these Mondays, we got to bring the fantasy news wrap-up. And on today's episode, we want to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning clinching, Edmonton Oilers clinching, David Pastrnak doing special things, Jason Robertson doing special things. We might get to a little waiver wire ads. We don't know how much time we're going to have because I think we need to sink our teeth into some of these major talking points over the weekend because they're going to have playoff implications. And of course, that is what matters at this time of the year, Steele. Welcome back. It feels like it's been a little while for you and I, my friend. So I'm excited to get back to doing what you and I do best, and that's talking hockey with each other. So why don't we start with this Tampa Bay Lightning team, because now locked into a collision course with the Toronto Maple Leafs once again.
Yeah, exactly right. Clinching a playoff spot with a huge 5-0 shutout win over the New York Islanders over the weekend. Again, second year in a row, we are going to see Toronto Maple Leafs and Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the postseason. Honestly, a lot of these teams that are shaping up that it looks like who's playing who in the first round really look like incredible matchups to start the postseason. So I'm really excited for the playoffs. Toronto versus Tampa Bay once again, going game 7 last year. Hopefully it goes game 7 in Toronto's favor this year. But look, I'm looking at this at multiple different angles right now. Yes. There's still a lot on the line for the Lightning and the Maple Leafs. I'm looking at the numbers. They're not mathematically out of it to get home ice advantage, but looking at it, it pretty much is set in stone for the Leafs. You know,
looks like it.
Leafs only have to go 3-3-1 in their last 7 games, even if the Lightning go 5-0 in their last 5. So they only have to win 3, overtime loss in 1. So they've got home ice advantage. It looks like, again, not set in stone, but it looks that way. So that is great news for the Maple Leafs. We know how great Ilya Samsonov plays at home. It looks like it's his crease. There's a lot to talk about. I'm very excited to watch a repeat of the first round series between these two teams.
And now all of a sudden, Steele, Samsonov comes back, posts the shutout against the Ottawa Senators. Tampa Bay Lightning posts a shutout of their own. Now things are starting to get real interesting, Steele, because I mentioned a sleeping giant in the Tampa Bay Lightning, and people starting to talk a little bit too much in my Toronto Maple Leaf circles about Leafs looking better. Tampa, maybe this is the year. I know you and I know better than a team that's been to 3 state Stanley Cups, because if the Toronto Maple Leafs are smart, they don't say a word going into this playoff series against the Tampa Bay Lightning team that we know it's unflappable, Steele. I don't think I throw out that term. They go down a goal or two. It's not a big deal because they've been there before and they have the talent to come back from those deficits. So not to get too far deep into this rabbit hole, but now I think what's intriguing to me, because you mentioned that gap on home ice advantage, the Toronto Maple Leafs would be very wise to not let that slip to the Tampa Bay Lightning, because Amalie Arena has been a fortress for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they've done really special things there this year. But I just need the puck to drop on this postseason, Steele, because also, and we'll talk about it maybe a little bit more on tomorrow's episode, the Eastern Conference race, and we predicted it. So many good teams, and it's going to be a spicy one.
It is going to be a spicy one. Obviously the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, the Panthers right now hold that second wild card spot.
Did I not call it? Called it.
We'll talk about that Penguins-Bruins game and what all that meant when we get to David Pastrnak. But you're right. Like, they are turning up right now, the Lightning, at a very, very opportune time. If you look, like, the one thing I'm very scared of, because I'm not scared of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, if you look at the Leafs over the last 6 to 7 years, it's been a tough ride. It's been a tough ride.
There. Okay.
No, it's been a tough ride. But if you look at last year's playoffs, you really can't blame the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, they put everything on the line. They went to Game 7 with the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, a team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row. So you can't blame it on the Leafs every single year. That was just a great matchup against the Stanley Cup champions at the time. So I don't put any blame at them, but they've got more experience now. They've got more experience under their belt. They've brought in guys that have that experience in Ryan O'Reilly, Mark Giordano as well, a couple of other guys on the
Achari, Lafferty, Shen, Gustafson, McCabe. The Leafs loaded up. They loaded up. They responded. So I'm with you.
They have great experience now. So I look at that playoff series from last year, and I don't blame it. I know a lot of Leafs fans do because of how many times they've got kicked out of the first round, but you're going up against the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions at the time. So there's no blame there. They have more experience. They're more prepared this year, this time around. And again, home ice advantage is so important in this scenario. For me, again, I'm looking at this series in the first round between the Leafs and Lightning, and if they can just get under the skin of some of those players, I think the temper of some of those players on the Tampa Bay Lightning is really going to harm them. Because if you look at last season, I think the Leafs and the Lightning led the most amount of penalty minutes in the first round series out of any single team. I think each team had over 100 penalty minutes in that first round. But if you look at the entire playoff series playoff postseason as a whole, the Tampa Bay Lightning had 276 penalty minutes in the entire playoffs last year. That was like 85 more penalty minutes than the second team in the postseason. So if they can get a little bit aggressive and get guys to take really, really bad penalties like Perry, Maroon, Jeannot, Hagel, even Kucherov. Kucherov could be a very vicious and harmful player when he is aggravated and pissed off. So if they can get under the skins of the Lightning, that can work in their favor. That's just me. But I'm really excited for the postseason right now. I can't wait for 2 weeks from now.
And I am loving this analysis. I hope all the listeners are feeling as fired up as Steele is right now, because my man is bringing that heat with the playoff breakdowns. And maybe that's an area that the Leafs can capitalize and pounce on. But I just very quickly, the Edmonton Oilers clinch their spot. The race for the top of the Pacific Division is not done yet. And I know it looks like the Edmonton Oilers and the LA Kings are going to play each other. I didn't tell you this, but over the weekend, Steele, maybe a couple of wobbly pops infused at plus 1,200. The Edmonton Oilers got 100 of my dollars because Stuart Skinner was named Rookie of the Month. And I was going to talk about him on my waiver wires, but now all of a sudden he went 10-1-1 in March, Steele. And now they have a goaltender. Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid have been clearing away the best two offensive pieces in the league this year. And they got Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on one of the most underrated seasons of the year. Evan Bouchard playing well. Matthias Ekholm has fit in seamlessly. And yeah, I'm going to sell it up on Darnell Nurse, who has 7 points in his last 5 games. Yeah. Be careful for this Edmonton Oilers team, because I know last year, and you were right, with Mike Smith, you're not trusting in any run, but now they have a good young goaltender who is from the Edmonton area. They're buying into special season Steele, and the Edmonton Oilers clinch. And if I was the Vegas Golden Knights, I'd be careful of my heel chops.
I'd be very careful if I was Vegas as well. I hope the Edmonton Oilers continue to win games and actually end up on top of that Pacific Division, because there's 2 reasons why I would love Edmonton to finish in first in the division. Because we would get to see the Golden Knights versus LA Kings in the first round, which we talked about last episode.
Revenge.
Would love to see that series. But B, because we would see the Oilers either play the Calgary Flames in the first round or the Winnipeg Jets if they're able to hold on in the first round. So those would be 2 spectacular matchups in the first round. Along with those Eastern Conference matchups. So I'm all here for that. So I absolutely I think at this point they're only 2 points back. I think Vegas has a game in hand. So I hope Edmonton wins and finishes on top. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10 games. So they are playing spectacular hockey right now. And Matthias Ekholm was the exact player that the Edmonton Oilers needed to get at the deadline. He has been fantastic. He's helped a lot. He's helped Bouchard and a couple of those other guys on the blue line as well.
Yes,
McDavid is McDavid. Draisaitl is Draisaitl. Like you said, Nugent Hopkins having one of the most underrated seasons ever in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So we need to put respect on his name as well. I will say
we need to.
Stuart Skinner has been great. 10-1. What did you say? 10-1-0 in his last 10 in his
10
last 11 games.
10-1-1
in March. I would like to know what the goals against average and save percentage is in those 12 games.
909 save percentage. So not the best. Goals against, I don't have, but he does also have a shutout steal. But more importantly, I think he's making the big saves. And yeah, I think what you were going to say is he could probably be saving a little bit more pucks, letting in too many, and that is a concern. Is that where you were going to go to?
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't.
It's a good point though. I'm not even hating,
but he has been playing better.
He has taken the crease from Jack Campbell, and that is perhaps
100%.
maybe most indicative of what they need a guy to do. They just need him to own the crease, because even Mike Smith had Koskinen behind him. They were flipping around. Oh my goodness, though. Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. Now, though, you don't mind Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell. Anyway, we've gone too far down this rabbit hole because we need to talk a little bit about our new sponsors. It's eBay Motors, baby. eBay Motors. And for a championship team, today's episode is sponsored by eBay Motors. Let's get that out, Steele. We're going to get to big time bets. We're going to get to a little bit more chatter from the weekend. But for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to be just the right fit. So next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know it will be a fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, baby, confidence is the name of the game. And when you shop on eBay Motors with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. And after all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube. So make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all the love, all the support you show us every single day. We are going to get to big time bets at the end of the episode. Hopefully, maybe a couple of waiver wire targets if you're in the championship round of your fantasy hockey league. Some special records broken as well. Jason Robertson, we're going to talk about him. We are going to talk about Carter Verhaeghe and the season he's having. But let's kick off the middle segment on this episode with the Pastaman, David Pastrnak, absolutely stealing at least 1 point, a crucial 1 point, might I add, from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Recording a hat trick.
Yes.
Over 100 points now. Flip, you're fired up to talk about the Pastaman.
I am.
What an absolute game, an absolute show that this showman put on for everybody in the building, all the hockey fans out there watching the game. Hat trick, scores the game-winning goal with under 3 minutes in the game, and again, stole a crucial point, at least 1 point, from the Pittsburgh Penguins in this tight Eastern Conference race.
Number one, the Pittsburgh Penguins are playing themselves out of a playoff spot right now. Yes, they are. And it's no chagrin to actually Sidney Crosby, because to me, he has been the only reason, other than maybe Jake Gensel and a little bit of Tristan Jarry, while they're hanging in there. But they're losing games to the good teams. They're losing games to the bad teams. But realistically, they had a chance to win this game, Boston Bruins. And honestly, Steele, I don't know. I think you watched the highlights, but I watched this game start to finish, and it was beautiful. It was the definition of pre-playoff hockey. It was back and forth. And if not for Pastrnak, the Pittsburgh Penguins would have won this game. And this is where I want to start this quick conversation on David Pastrnak, because 25 overall. This kid was passed over, and if not for his standout World Junior out of nowhere, he may not have even gone in the first 2 rounds. But I just really needed to give this man his flowers. You've mentioned about giving players their flowers. I needed to give David Pastrnak his. He is a game changer. And you mentioned gamesman. I love that he's there firing up the crowd. I love that he's there in the big moments. And he's a Boston Bruins player, Steele, and you know how I feel about that team. 56 goals this season, 46 assists, 102 points, breaks the triple-digit mark for the first time in his career. With this hat trick, though, Steele, he did a little bit of everything. And I wanted to bring this up before we move on to Verhaeghe and Robertson, because also both very impressive. Not quite as, but for me, just right there. He's got one of the best pivot shots, if not the best in the game. He shoots off 1 foot better than anyone that I've seen do it in a long time, and that includes Matthews and Ovechkin. So I wanted to hit you with this take. Do you think actually at 56 goals, like let's say he finishes just today at 56, because they might rest him a little bit. 65? 70? What's your ceiling for Pastrnak? Because when I see him now, and I do think they're going to rest him, because what do the Bruins have to play for at this point? 70 goals is well within this guy's arsenal, in my opinion.
I don't know if 70 goals is well within his arsenal. I just don't think he's quite there, because McDavid's at 62 right now, and he's not even going to get to 70 goals either.
No, I know. And
I'm
drinking the Kool-Aid a little.
I think potentially next year he gets 60 goals, if not this year, because he's got 7 goals in his last 4 games. He's scoring at will right now. He's putting the Bruins already, they clinched the President's Trophy and the top team in the NHL like 3 or 4 games ago. They were the fastest team to 50 points. The team has been absolutely incredible, but he is the biggest reason. His offensive ability, the thing that impresses me most about David Pastrnak, because there's a lot to love about him, but it's the accuracy that he puts with his shot. He pinpoints the smallest little holes. And for me, that's the biggest thing that impresses me about David Pastrnak. But it's absolutely insane what he's been able to do this year. I wanted to ask you a question, because we've talked about Pastrnak a little bit fantasy draft wise, because we regretted very, very much passing up on him in our fantasy league.
Don't go there.
He was a late 2nd round pick. He's obviously going to be a first round pick in next year's fantasy draft for a lot of leagues. But does he crack the top 5? Does he get into the top 5 of fantasy players next season? Because that's a hard question. That's a hard question to answer, because you got McDavid, you got Draisaitl, you got Rantanen, McKinnon.
How about Austin Matthews on a bounce back? There's a lot of angles that could happen next year. And I'll answer it with this, Steele. And it was one of the things that I wanted to mention because of the injuries to Marchand and Bergeron this year, that Pasternak's got it done with that, right? If I'm going to chirp a little bit, Draisaitl's been there for David C2 all the way through.
Yeah.
So maybe that was just one of the caveats that I was going to take, is next year is what will be there for Pastrnak if if the Bruins win a cup, Bergeron's not coming back. Marchand might be in a reduced role. So Pastrnak next season, for me, Steele, it has a lot to do with what the Boston Bruins do. And I would actually lean to saying late 1st round, early 2nd round is still accurate for David Pastrnak, depending on the league. But hey, these are all the angles that you and I are going to need to look at. You know, we're going to be breaking down playoffs, people, playoff X factors, playoff pools, some news to come for some listener league details coming up over the next couple of weeks for next year and otherwise. Steele and I have the big time bets for today. We got to talk about Jason Robertson quickly and Verhaeghe after the break, Steele, but why don't you take us right there?
We will get there right after this. This episode is also brought to you by Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product that I use literally every single day right when I wake up in the morning. I started taking AG1 because I wanted more energy throughout the day, and I hated taking pills and vitamins. It's absolutely the worst. And I also wanted to see what all the hype was about. It's changed my life since I started taking it last year. It's been absolutely fantastic. So what exactly is the stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics to help you start the day off right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and even your aging. It has so many health benefits, and it's been absolutely fantastic for me. Athletic Greens was actually created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a very complimented supplement routine to recover from it. And it cost him way too much money, $100 a day, and that's way too expensive. And right now is the time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup every single day in a cup of water every single day. Like I said, I take it right in the morning when I wake up, and there's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and a 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We appreciate all the love, all the support. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the follow button. Leave some comments, DM us on Twitter. We appreciate all the feedback that you have for this episode and even our podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. Real quick, before we get to big time bets, where the money is made. Jason Robertson or Carter Verhaeghe, which player would you like to start off with? Because they have both been incredible this season.
They have been, and I think maybe just the short take on Carter Verhaeghe, and we'll leave the juice for Jason Robertson, because everyone has been very clear right up there with the, my cold takes on Seth Jarvis and Cole Perfetti have been my solid ones on Carter Verhaeghe and Adrian Kempe. I struck out on the other two, but Kempe and Verhaeghe are 40-goal caliber men, and I know Kempe's not there yet, but he is right there in terms of a sneaky 40-goal rated guy. Anyway, Carter Verhaeghe, 27 years old, good Toronto boy, 3rd round pick steal. And what he has been able to do, even with that influx season of the Florida Panthers not really knowing themselves until the last couple of weeks, Alex Lyon out of nowhere playing well. Now they're right in there. They've taken the spot back from the Pittsburgh Penguins, up a point on that final wild card spot. 4-goal performance over the weekend against Columbus. And I know it's Columbus steal. The man had 8 shots on net in only 10 minutes of ice time. 4 goals in 10 minutes of ice time. Put some respect on my man's name, because next year, speaking of moving up on draft boards, my man is going to now this is a 70-point season for a player who has actually steal, though realistically, now been proving it over the last couple of seasons. 36 points in 43 games, 55 points in 78 games, and now his beast mode coming out season. I think you're just starting to see the little bit of the tip of the iceberg for a really underrated shooter in Carter Verhaeghe.
Yeah, exactly the same thing I was going to say. An unsuspecting star that has risen for the Florida Panthers and the NHL, actually, because he has been incredible all season long, reaches 40 goals for the first time in his career. And yeah, like you said, for next year's fantasy draft, like I'm looking at where he was drafted this year, 165th overall, 171st overall. I think if I'm correct, I believe that's around the 11th or 12th round. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
sounds right.
Sounds a little bit
depends on how many teams.
Exactly, it depends on the teams, but around there. So maybe middle to in the mid-late to fantasy draft. So he's definitely going to climb up the board significantly. This is a guy that I let pass many times over the last 2 years, and officially he is on the radar for me. He's climbed up all the way, probably. I don't know. What do you think? Like 6th round, 5th round, maybe? Like he's if he continues to do that, plus he's got Matthew Tkachuk and a lot of those other guys with him.
Tough. Still another tough question, because also it's always hard when guys step out for the first season. Are you really going to bank on them to do it back to back, because that small sample size? I'm going to say 4th or 5th round because I don't want to say he's just a perennial 40-goal scorer. Does he have that ability? Yes. But even if he has a 30-goal year next year still, he's a very valuable piece at where you're going to get him at. So I'm going to say 5th, peripheral 5th round is where I'd be safe saying.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. 5th, 6th round. I think that would be the right thing. Again, we're going to look into this next year before our
we're breaking it all down, baby.
Draft. We'll be breaking it all down real quick, though. Jason Robertson records franchise record 97 points over the weekend. Absolutely incredible season. He'll probably be at 100 points as well at the end of in the next 5 games, or however many left the Dallas Stars have in the regular season. But I know you want to talk about what he's accomplished as well this year.
I just also need to say very quickly, shout out to the Niagara Ice Dogs, both producing Carter Verhaeghe and Jason Robertson. So better pay attention to what's going on down here in Niagara hockey, baby, because they're putting out some studs. And I know that they played in Kingston and other places as well, but I'm going to take that Niagara love. Jason Robertson is 2nd in the NHL this year with 2 hat tricks. Adjusted points, he's 7th. Point shares, 9th. Goals created, 5th. Even strength goals, 5th. Just been a stud. And honestly, thought it was going to be a good year. First really started to show what he can do last year. 79 points still in 74 games. But breaking a record held by a guy in Mike Modano, it's for me, I know I'm a little bit older than you, and I know some of our listeners are probably like, here goes Uncle Flip. But Mike Modano was the face of the Dallas franchise, and 93 points in a season is a very, very good one for what's been a non-market in Dallas. And they have really proven to be a very sneaky and quality team. And with Jason Robertson in that top line with Hintz and Pavelski still, I think that might be a caveat that we have to mention when we're talking about this success. 42 goals, 55 assists for Robo this year, 7 game-winning goals, clutch performer as well, is how good that top line has been, because I think when you have a line like that, that's what can go special in the playoffs. Jake Ottinger is one of the best, but Robertson, special season, had to mention it. Watch out, Stars in the playoffs, even though they're sinking a little right now.
Look, one of the best lines in the NHL that we've talked about so many times. Miro Heiskanen's been an absolute beautiful season as well for him. Like you said, Jake Ottinger, a very special talent in the crease between the pipes for the Stars. It's been an incredible season for a lot of players. What Matthew Tkachuk's been able to do as well, still fighting for a playoff spot, but he's over 100 points. There's a lot of talented players in the NHL that continue to put on a show for a lot of fans out there. We need to get to big time bets, though, where the money is made.
Yes, we do.
And that's actually where I'm going to start with. So if you don't mind, I'll just rattle off 3 of my picks for the 3-game board.
Oh, we're keeping it short for this 3-game board.
Jason Robertson, anytime goal against the Nashville Predators. I think you can also parlay that with the Dallas Stars on the money line, because they've won their last 3 meetings against the Nashville Predators. So Jason Robertson, anytime goal. That's my first pick. Second pick, I'm going to take the Kraken on the money line, maybe even puck line against the Arizona Coyotes. But as of right now, just sticking with the safe pick, Kraken on the money line. And my lock of the night, revenge game for the Minnesota Wild. Wild on the money line against the Vegas Golden Knights for 2 reasons. First reason, it's a big 2 points for the Minnesota Wild. Create some distance from the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche. And I want the Edmonton Oilers on top of that Pacific Division. And taking away 2 points from the Golden Knights will help them do so. So that's my lock of the night. Wild on the money line.
Love it. And you have to keep it simple with this 3-game board steal, because you know what? It is a little bit tricky. Vegas at Minnesota. Yes, I'd be leaning Minnesota. That's a coin flip game, in my opinion. Nashville's a little bit desperate, but I'd lean Dallas for sure. And that's where I'm going with my first pick. And even Arizona, who have lost a lot of really bad games, they tend to be that team that throws a wrinkle in your plans. But let me start with the Dallas Stars, because I do like this pick a lot. Dallas at home. Look, Nashville is 2-4 in their last 6 against Dallas. And I understand that Nashville has been up and down. But when I look at the lineup that they're putting out there, no disrespect to Evangelista, no disrespect to some of these young players who are Cody Glass, who are making the most of the end of this season and the opportunity. Let me just ream this off. Duchesne out, Johansson out, Yossi questionable for Monday, Forsberg out, Parsonen out, Lazon out. There's just so many players that they are missing. I gotta go with the Dallas Stars at home in this situation, Steele. That's my first pick on the money line. I'm with you as well. This Vegas Minnesota game, I'm going to talk about it in a second. But Arizona at Seattle, I'm with you again. This is a situation that I think Seattle continues to pad that first wild card spot against a team, Steele. Very quickly, Arizona 0-7 in their last 7. 0-6 in their last 6 on the road. 0-5 in their last 5 games against Western Conference opponents. And they're just like a pincushion right now, getting stuffed with goals. Give me the Seattle Kraken on the money line. And where I like your revenge angle game type of scenario for this Vegas Golden Knights, Minnesota Wild situation, to me, that says under. And I think the Minnesota Wild respond with a very typical at-home Minnesota Wild performance. They shut it down. They get a good performance. I don't know if it's going to – I know Fleury's been okay. If it's Gustafsson, who do you think it's going to be, actually, very quickly?
It's probably going to be Gustafsson. Well, the Wild and Golden Knights just played over the weekend. The Golden Knights won 4-1. It looked like it was going to be a blowout because Fleury, he let 3 goals in on 13 shots. So it looked a little bit like a blowout. He wasn't playing good. He ended up with 35 saves. And
he played pretty well.
He ended up playing after those first 3 goals because the last goal was an empty netter. He ended up playing really, really well and kept them in the game. Yeah. I expect it to be Gustafsson because he's been the better goalie of late, even though both goalies
thought so too.
Both goalies have been great, but Gustafsson's been the one on the heater most recently. So it will probably be Gustafsson just to give him another look at a very top tier team.
I think so too. So that I think even more so means tight bounce back game from Minnesota where they lock it down. I'm saying 3-2, 4-2 final.
Yeah.
So let's take that total up to 6.5. My lock of the night on the under.
Last game was 4-1, so I'm picking the under in this game as well. Under in this game, and I'm taking the Wild on the money line at home. That's the lock of those are the lock of the night. Put your picks down, make your bets, put your money where your mouth is. That's what Flip and I do over here. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, though, check out Game to Game. Every moment, every performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On hosts can deliver. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.